Cardinal Luis Tagle, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you very much for doing this interview.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Your Eminence, let me begin by asking you about growing up in the Philippines. What was it like, your childhood, your family life?
It appears that Pope Francis has shown his support for an unidentified individual who has the potential to reshape the future of the Catholic Church. Because of his close relationship with Cardinal Luis Tagle, he has frequently been the subject of interest and, on occasion, controversy.
I welcome you to our country, to the city of Manila, and to the Cathedral Basilica of the Immaculate Conception.
Moreover, the Pope has at long last come to the conclusion that Cardinal Luis Tagle should be brought to light. Why has Pope Francis decided to reveal this information at this particular moment? What impacts will this have on the power that the Church wields on the international stage? Join us as we delve deeply into the manner in which Pope Francis disclosed the truth to the general public regarding Cardinal Luis Tagle. Relationship between Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis Tagle. The relationship between Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis Tagle is characterized by a complex loyalty that is firmly rooted in shared ideologies, mutual admiration, and the pursuit of an innovative path for the Catholic Church. Both Cardinal Tagle and the Pope are influenced by the same principles. He is uncomplicated, warm, and welcoming, and particularly attuned to the requirements of the people. Francis has had a vision of the Church for the poor, and what Tagle did in Manila before he became a cardinal, he wanted to bring the message that he wanted to bring to the lowly and was able to touch the simple people. Since the beginning of his papacy, Francis has had this vision. The Pope, who was heavily influenced by Tagle, has a firm belief in the power of the clergymen, and not just in their ability to deliver speeches that are intended to motivate others. During the course of their relationship, they share a common vision regarding the possibility of establishing a church that will continue to be relevant even in the face of adversity. When Tagle was appointed prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples in 2019, the partnership between the two characters reached new heights of operational success.
Pope Francis has appointed Cardinal Luis Tagle, the new head of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples.
This position is known as the Red Pope, and it comes with a great deal of power, including the authority to oversee missionary activity that takes place across multiple continents, for example. When Pope Francis appointed Tagle to this significant position, he made a veiled reference to the possibility of entrusting him with the responsibility of further developing Catholic evangelization, particularly in the regions of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, on account of the fact that these regions will be the future of the Catholic Church. Additionally, their relationship is not solely based on their works. What Tagle holds in high regard unquestionably contains a component that Francis has advocated for. Each of the leaders has emphasized the importance of compassion rather than doctrine, conversation rather than polarization, and action rather than speech in their respective statements. Both of them have become more steadfast in their ideal of a church that is based on love as a result of their shared experience of dealing with hostile reactions from traditionalist factions. As a result, the qualities of humility and humanity that are inherent in Tagle's leadership style are not dissimilar to those that Pope Francis possesses. In the case of Typhoon Haiyan in 2013, for instance, Tagle's prompt response, in conjunction with his compassion in the face of disasters, gave him the impression of being a leader of the Church of Mercy, as Francis had recommended. Tagle's expertise in theology, particularly his inclusive evangelization, has made him a model for liberal Catholics all over the world. This is in addition to the charitable work that he has done. According to what Pope Francis has made abundantly clear on multiple occasions, the leadership within the Church cannot continue to be clericalized. Rather, it must be a sign of outreach to those who have been forgotten and abandoned by the world. The question of where Tagle stands within the hierarchy of the Vatican has been brought up once more as a result of some comments that Pope Francis has made in recent times. The work that the Pope and the Cardinal are doing appears to have been pre-planned, despite the fact that the Pope has not directly stated his vision for the Cardinal in the long term. Could the path that H. Tagle took within the Church be interpreted as evidence of a possible shift toward change? To the stage of the world, from Manila, Cardinal Luis Tagle, who rose from the streets of Manila to the hallways of the Vatican, is a motivational figure who exemplifies the importance of living a lifestyle that is purposeful. Tagle was born in the Philippines in 1957, and the trajectory of his life demonstrates that he was deeply rooted in his community and committed to helping those who come from less fortunate backgrounds. Since he was a child, He made the decision to pursue a career in theology and eventually became one of the most influential figures in the Catholic Church. He was blessed with an extraordinary intellect and soul. When he was appointed Archbishop of Manila in 2011, Tagle began his journey toward becoming a leader in a meaningful way.
Overseas Filipino workers have praised the appointment of Manila Archbishop Luis Antonio Tagle as Cardinal. A priest adds Tagle's new role will be a challenge.
When Tagle took over as the leader of one of the largest Catholic dioceses in the world, he quickly assumed the role of a reformist. Unlike the rulers of the past, he did not give in to the greed and materialism that were typical of their behavior. Rather than that, he endeavored to restore his concern for the Church and its members, his commitment to missionary work, and his enthusiasm for the realization of justice. Tagle's sermons are very moving and heartwarming, and they have the ability to speak to the experiences of millions of people. As a result, he has gained an enormous amount of popularity, and people began to refer to him as Asia's Francis. His rise to prominence on a global scale was facilitated by a number of promotions that brought to light his growing influence within the Vatican. Tagle was a supporter of campaigns against poverty, hunger, and climate change while he was serving as the president of Caritas Internationalis, a Catholic charity organization that operates in 165 countries. He was chosen to carry out the role of a leader in the evangelization efforts because of the perception that he possesses the ability to facilitate communication between various cultures and ideologies that are present within the Church. The fact that he was appointed to the position of prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples in 2019 undoubtedly marked a significant turning point. After being appointed to the position, he was placed in the middle of the Church's mandate to spread the gospel to every single person on the planet. Tagle had a deep appreciation for the various cultural differences that existed, and he eventually became an active participant in the reorganization of the Church's strategies for evangelization in non-Western countries, including those in Asia and Africa. Nevertheless, what does it mean to be so popular? His ability to function effectively within the framework of globalization is the key to the answer. With the combination of these diplomatic maneuvers and a strong theological mind, Tagle has established himself as a leader who is capable of addressing the complexities that the Church is currently facing. There is a growing amount of speculation regarding Tagle's position at the Vatican as his influence at the Vatican grows. Would he be able to become even more involved? Or could he even be a candidate for the position of Pope in the future? And in the event that this is the case, what does a church that is led by Tagle look like? A church for those on the margins. In this new face of the Catholic Church, which Pope Francis is leading, the Church has shifted its focus to those who are on the margins of society. This vision, which is frequently referred to as a church for the poor, has taken advantage of the fact that Cardinal Luis Tagle has been by its side. It is their collective responsibility to advocate for social justice, kindness, and compassion in the community. Despite the fact that they have the ability to significantly cause changes in the social relationships within the Church, the attention that Pope Francis has paid to the marginalized can serve as evidence of these. According to him, the Church lives on the margins of society, serving as a sanctuary for those who are marginalized. During his tenure as president of Caritas Internationalis, he has been responsible for overseeing campaigns to combat hunger, providing shelter to refugees, and addressing the challenges posed by climate change. He has established himself as a key player in the Church's charity portfolios as a result of this, in addition to his ability to negotiate for resources and to persuade individuals to take action. In the course of his work, President Tagle frequently emphasizes the significance of listening as one of the most important practices.
If you listen, you dispose yourself to love, and those who love will not get tired of listening.
In contrast to more traditional models of vertical power dynamics, Tagle places a high value on conversation and makes it a point to actively seek out and listen to perspectives, particularly those that are on the margins of the group. However, the concentration on the margins does not come without its share of challenges. Some critics of the Church have pointed out that when the Church's message is presented to society in such a manner, it is highly probable that the social causes will prevail over the doctrines of the Church. Pope Francis and his supporters have been accused by those who are opposed to the Catholic Church of sabotaging traditional Catholic values by placing an excessive amount of emphasis on political correctness. In spite of this, Pope Francis and Cardinal Tagle have maintained their stance because they are aware that the Church will lose its relevance if it does not address these and a great number of other contemporary issues. Furthermore, Tagle is in a position to assist in the propagation of the Pope's vision, in addition to his involvement in humanitarian activities. The Church is determined to foster positive relations in a world that is becoming increasingly divided, and his efforts to advance interfaith relations make it clear that this determination is clear. As a result of the fact that having conversations about religious issues with people of different faiths can foster tolerance and unity, Tagle reflects the primary message that Pope Francis is trying to convey. It is through the visions of Pope Francis and Cardinal Tagle that efforts are being made to bring the Church into more direct contact with the people, and in a certain way, modern Catholicism is being constructed right in front of our very eyes. Because of this emphasis on the margins, is it possible that a new understanding of the mission of the Church could be assigned in the context of rapid change, a tug of war that is quiet? The authority of the Roman Catholic Church has always been nourished by a power struggle, even though, behind the pious faces and the appearance of togetherness, there is power struggle. These kinds of conflicts are articulated in terms of ideologies within the context of the Vatican, which is a location that sits at the intersection of postmodern culture and traditional culture. The battles that take place on a daily basis between reformists such as Pope Francis and Cardinal Tagle and conservatives provide a fascinating drama of struggles that are not spoken about. Rebuking clericalism, calling for a more decentralized church, and speaking out on sensitive issues such as migration, climate change, and economic transparency are all examples of the reformative changes that Pope Francis has brought about during his tenure as Pope.
Warning: the head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City-State has said that the earth will become uninhabitable if there is no concrete action taken on climate change.
Nevertheless, these efforts have been met with a great deal of challenging obstacles. Within the Church of Rome, there are a few ultra-conservative parties and groups that have been vocally expressing their dissatisfaction with this change, which some of them have characterized as a significant departure from the Bible, which is the Word of God. It is the active role that Cardinal Tagle plays in the Vatican that is indicative of this particular aspect of the power struggle. The assent of Tagle has not been met with universal approval, despite the fact that he is consistent with Pope Francis's vision of the Church as one that is merciful and focused on the peripheries. Regrettably, his sensible management style and orientation on dialogue and participation are in direct opposition to more conventional views concerning Catholic theology. As a consequence of this, expectations have been raised, and questions have been raised about the potential challenges that the leader of the Church might face. One of the most important aspects of this power struggle has been the supervision of financial matters, which has been one of the many fields involved. It is Pope Francis who has initiated the process of cleaning up the financial institutions of the Vatican, and this process has generated a great deal of controversy. In light of the fact that Tagle has been advocating for increased and improved disclosure, he will lend his support to the reform initiatives. Tagle is a member of the management team that oversees charitable activities. On the other hand, this has also put him in opposition to certain individuals who have interests that need to be protected, specifically the established power groups. An additional layer of complexity is added to these dynamics by succession. Despite the fact that Pope Francis has not made any hints about who will succeed him, the rise in popularity of Tagle and other figures provides a reason to contemplate the kind of future that the Church will be leaning toward. There is a possibility that conservatives will want to keep or promote candidates whom they believe would not continue the reform of the framework in the same way that Pope Francis accomplished. The power struggle that takes place behind the scenes is a representation of the confrontation that determines who should be in charge of the Church's future. There are other institutions besides the Vatican that are involved in these power struggles. They extend to dioceses in every country, exerting an influence on the manner in which the leaders of the dioceses deal with issues that occur in the world. However, the reform that demonstrated the growing divide between unity and traditional Catholicism became the defining characteristic of this age in the Catholic Church. This was despite the fact that many traditionalist elements were still in operation. In what ways are these particular dynamics likely to have an effect on the Church as it strives to meet the challenges that the 21st century presents? In addition, what role do those in positions of authority, such as Cardinal Tagle, have to play in handling these transitions? A visionary in the midst of chaos. The journey that Cardinal Luis Tagle has taken within the Catholic Church is not yet complete. Even so, this young cardinal has left an indelible mark on the world, a champion of the oppressed in his country, a defender of human rights, and a respecter of immigrants. Catholicism is on the side of those who are poor and marginalized. Tagle is regarded as a beacon of hope for progressive Catholics all over the world. On the other hand, he is using this power while simultaneously overextending the institution by dealing with long-standing internal and external conflicts at the present time. One of Tagle's strengths is his ability to interact with people, which enables him to be friendly with people from a wide variety of backgrounds. Tagle was a humble human being who was able to easily connect with followers, regardless of whether he was preaching to a gathering of followers in Manila or acting as a representative of the Vatican. Instead of the rigid institutionalist approach that is prevalent in the Church, the majority of people have been missing the leadership style that the shepherd frequently preached. It is through the celebration of a religion that is both open and moving that Tagle has portrayed himself as a revolutionary within the new Catholic Church. Nevertheless, this legacy is being constructed despite the fact that there is a great deal of volatility. The number of faithful people in Asia and Africa is steadily increasing, in contrast to the situation in Europe and North America, where the number of priests and other representatives of the Church continues to decrease and their influence becomes less significant. The task of serving a large and diverse congregation is made more difficult by this demographic shift, which is both a strength and a weakness. It empowers the congregation, but it also makes it more difficult to serve them. As a result of Tagle's cultural sensitivity and the fact that he is not a Westerner himself, he is well known within the cultures that are not Western. As a result, it is possible to say that Tagle is in a good position to carry out this endeavor. In addition, the process guide that is attributed to Tagle is characterized by the fact that it combines elements of tradition and the trend that has emerged in the most recent decades.
Moving on, issuing a stark warning, the head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City-State has said that the earth will become uninhabitable if there is no concrete action taken on climate change.
However, this has also been subject to some criticism. In a sign of the conflicts that are characteristic of this period of Catholic authority, conservatives within the Church have accused him of deviating from doctrinal matters. The manner in which Tagle was able to satisfy these conflicting demands will determine the legacy that he leaves behind in the years to come. The question of leadership is brought to the forefront as a result of the ongoing developments that are taking place within the Catholic Church. It indicates that the good work that has been started under Pope Francis needs to be maintained by other leaders who will serve the organization in the future. The fact that Tagle is loyal to Francis's image and has a significant amount of influence within the Vatican makes him a potential candidate to have an impact on the future of the Catholic Church. To what extent, however, will his vision be able to resonate with such a large and typically divided group of Roman Catholics anywhere in the world? Cardinal Tagle's footprints have been the subject of a great deal of discussion. However, they are still in the process of being constructed. The difficulties that he faces are quite significant due to the fact that he is in charge of an organization that is subject to conventions, requirements, and an environment that is constantly evolving at the same rate as the rest of the world, but he is still expected to maintain order. He will be defined by his capacity to instill hope in others and to become a motivating force that brings people together. This stewardship has the potential to usher in a new Catholic Church, one that is welcoming, healing, and revitalizing. In the race for the papal throne, Tagle's most prominent rival, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who is considered to be a strong contender to Cardinal Luis Tagle, is one of the most effective contenders among the various names that have been assumed to be in the line for succession to Pope Francis. He is also one of the names that has been the subject of speculation. In his role as Secretary of State of the Vatican, Parolin is a high-ranking official who is responsible for overseeing the Vatican's diplomatic efforts and organizational structure. In addition to his position as a cardinal, he has received extensive publicity, which positions him as a frontline candidate for the papal chair. Before joining the Synod of Bishops, Parolin gained prominent experience in diplomacy and was best known for his conservative views. This is in contrast to Tagle, who has more of a pastoral bent of mind and is described as a reformist. He hails from Italy, which suggests that he is a member of the fundamental core of the Catholic Church, which is struggling to adapt to the challenges posed by modern society. Because of his work as Secretary of State and his ability to shape the Church through its intricate geopolitical relations and maintain influence all over the world, he has garnered respect among those who adhere to traditionalist beliefs. Parolin is considered to be a mastermind who is able to deal with the hierarchy of the church, in contrast to Tagle, who is thought to be closer to the periphery. Since the moment he assumed power, he has been arranging and mediating between the various cliques that exist within the church. This is yet another characteristic of his. As someone who is committed to building bridges, he has made every effort to address not only the problems that are on one side, but also those that are on the other side, particularly by adopting a middle-of-the-road approach when dealing with contentious issues. Those individuals who favor gradual changes over drastic ones have shown a great deal of affection for him due to his ability to work the internal politics. On the other hand, those who disagree with him argue that his concepts are not inventive enough to address the challenges that the church is confronted with in this day and age of global transformations. The disagreement that exists between Tagle and Parolin can be interpreted as a reflection of the inconsistencies that exist within the contemporary church. Comparatively, Parolin reflects the traditional and diplomatic sensibilities that are typical of the Vatican administration, whereas Tagle emphasizes the postmodern vectors of leadership, forward-looking inclusion, compassionate action, and people-centered orientation. The existence of these disparities gives rise to fundamental questions for a great number of individuals, including those concerning the path that the church will take in the future and the kind of leader that would be most suitable for it at the present time. The high profile of Parolin is also indicative of the continued dominance of Italian clergy within the bureaucracy of the Vatican. The Pope has always been a European, and the majority of the time it has been an Italian. Since the beginning of time, this has been occurring. The fact that the election of Pope Francis has been nonconformist to this tradition is evidence of this, as is the fact that the candidate that Parolin is supporting appears to point to a trend that is in the opposite direction. This condition adds yet another layer of complexity to the overall problem of succession, which highlights the contrast between the persistence of tradition and the emergence of new age within the church. Both Tagle and Parolin are equally enthusiastic about the work that the church does, despite the fact that they come from different institutions. However, research has shown that their various approaches each have their own unique way of representing the probability of choosing the next pope. In what direction will the church decide to go? Would you prefer to have more contact with common people and their initiatives, or would you rather maintain the established clerical hierarchy? The response to this question will be the deciding factor in determining the future of the Catholic Church for the next few decades in question. The competition that exists between Tagle and Parolin provides an insight into the struggles that the churches are going through. This competition originates from the fact that the media has been spreading rumors about who will succeed Pope Francis. As the outcome of this competition unfolds, the leadership of the Church will not only determine its capacity to navigate through a world that is continuously becoming more polarized and complex, but it will also define the Church's overall identity. Do you have any thoughts on Cardinal Tagle's appointment as the new Pope? Additionally, who do you believe has the greatest potential to ascend to the throne of the Pope? In the comment section, please be sure to share your thoughts with us. For additional content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Furthermore, click the following video that is displayed on your screen. You are going to take pleasure in it.